Good. So I'm excited you're all here. I think this is probably of this annual series, this is like one of the most important um, months because, of course, when Sun is in Libra, he is debilitated. So we're going to be talking about what that means and some ideas to cope with it, um, along with everything else we're dealing with in this special year of 2020. So we're recording. I think everything is good to go. Just let me double check. Yep, we're recording. Good. Okay, so I am Ramdas Bill Sinclair. Thank you very much for coming. I want to let people know, especially during this challenging time, I am available for consultations. If you go to my website, billsinclair.com, there's information there and you can book. Because sometimes it's just good to get reassurance when you're studying your chart and things like that, and just strategize. So just like to make sure I call that out for people. Thank you for supporting ACVA by attending this program. You can check out, there's hundreds of recordings available on the ACVA store at acvaonline.org. Also, we have a YouTube channel, and this whole series, along with the Ask Jyoti Devi series, is also on our YouTube channel. So if you've missed any of those, check those out. Charlotte's giving so much great advice on like the mechanics of how we share this information in today's world. We also have a newsletter, acvaonline.org /contact. That's really important to sign up for the newsletter because we're starting to have other talks besides this one and Charlotte's, and that's where you'll get all the links how to sign up and get active. In fact, later this month, we're going to have, I think I forgot to put that in there. Yes, we're going to have Dr. Suhas, who is a world-renowned Ayurvedic physician and Jyotishi, and he's going to be talking about how to read health concerns and balance that, the 3 pillars of health in the Vedic chart. So this is a 1-hour talk, and it's going to be happening in a couple weeks. I think it's 2 weeks from Sunday. But if you are on the email list, you will have gotten a notice about that. If not, you can always reach out to registrar at acvaonline.org and get all the information. It's a really great class. So it's a kind of unusual thing, and it's free. He has very generously donated it so that we can share that with the world. So kind of a cool thing to integrate our sister sciences. And then always, it's coming to the end of the year. If you are considering making charitable donations, I hope you'll consider ACVA. We are a completely volunteer organization, and so everything goes into just covering our operating expenses so that we can continue to promote Jyotish education. So let's start with our mantras. So take a minute here, take a deep breath, get settled. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Adityaye Somaye Mangalaye Buddhaya Cha Guru Shukra Shanibhyascha Rahuve Ketuve Namaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mokshyamamrita. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mokshyamamrita. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mokshyamamrita. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so as we've talked about, Sun is going to be debilitated from the 16th of October through the 16th of November. And here we have the remedy that you should be practicing yourself and prescribing to others. This mantra is excellent for healing. And since health's major, the sun's major indication is health, vitality, our personhood, and everything, this is a great remedy to help us go through the next month with more ease, comfort, and confidence. So the first line says, we worship the three-eyed one, who is Shiva, who is fragrant and nourishes all beings. So it's that nourishing, it's health, vitality. And the mantra says, just like a cucumber falls off its vine and is detached from bondage, Shiva will liberate the soul from death and find moksha and amrita. So this is about maintaining our optimal health and balance, and then being in the flow of nature. Mahamrityunjaya also deals a lot with maintaining our health and then easing our passage into the next life. But it's really used widely for health. It's a Maha mantra, so it doesn't have really any negative side effects. Everyone can say this, and they can do it 1 time, 3 times every day. They can do it 108 times, whatever they feel comfortable with. So I was preparing this talk. I thought, well, here's the remedy. This is what we can start practicing ourselves. You can start it now. It's always good to start it before the transit starts, and then just keep up like a daily practice throughout and see if it doesn't help bring you stability and peace. So today we'll be talking all about Sun in Libra. We'll be going over the key transits, and then we'll have sign by sign thoughts on like how this is going to play out for each ascendant and moon sign. And then there's time for questions and discussions as well. Let me just check and see if we have. Okay, good. Everything's still looking good. So as I said, October 16th, this all starts and it goes through November 16th. And the chart I'm using is for it's based in Los Angeles, which is West Coast here in the US. So this is the moment that Sun enters Libra. And you'll see that on that same day, we have just finished a new moon because the moon is sitting right there with him. And so we're still really in the new moon energy. So this starts on a new moon, then we have a full moon, and you'll see there's another new moon a couple days before the sun transit has entered. So this is a little bit of an unusual pattern to have 2 new moons, and it means this entire lunar cycle will be influenced by Sun being there. And because they're together in the ascendant chart, this means that and Mercury is there as well. This tells me that a lot of the manifestation will be on the mental level. And so that could play out in many ways. Like you may not be so clear how you're thinking. It indicates to me the possibility for depression. High stress is definitely the signature. When I look at it, I think increased stress, which I mean is no surprise, especially if you're living in the US. But I think that stress in the US is even, manifesting around the world. So this is a high stressful time, which is why a solid mantra practice is a really good thing to do, as well as just getting out and taking a walk every day, moderate physical daily exercise, and really good sleep. All those basics are the things that are really going to help you get through this. So the other thing we notice about this chart is in the sign of Libra, and Libra is here in the 11th house to begin, which is pretty good. But then he moves very quickly into his sign of debilitation. So we have the sun debilitated and the Lord of the Sun also debilitated. And this is something that doesn't happen every cycle, of course. So this is a special signature for this transit, which, means that feeling like you aren't getting enough support or you don't have enough support, financial concerns really may be on the forefront of your mind. And so those things will really be highlighted, during this transit. And the other thing I noticed is that we have an aspect from Saturn here. So he gives his 10th aspect, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he's aspecting the whole time Sun's here. And of course, Saturn's aspect is very destructive, can bring out especially deep-seated anger. And speaking of anger, we also have the 8th aspect of Mars, which will be here through most of the transit. And Mars is in a retrograde state in Gemini. So this, because I mean, so we have multiple challenging influences on the sun. And so while sun is debilitated every time, each year at this time, we have some additional stressors that we can expect. And really, I don't want to, like alarm people too much, but this is why we practice astrology, is because we can see, okay, this isn't going to be the average sun through Libra time. So it's interesting to look back and see what usually happens. How is mid-October to mid-November for you? Like, think of what leading up, sometimes it's a good place for me. I mean, for me particularly, nothing, doesn't seem to be a bad time of year. It's actually usually one of my favorite times of year. But so just expect that this is going to be a little bit on the lower side of those expectations as we come in. And that's how I will be talking to people that, I'm counseling for during this time, is that, it's going to pass. But these are the major factors. So here I just wrote out that Sun is in his debilitation sign. He'll be exactly debilitated at 10 degrees on October 27th. And that's going to happen in the nakshatra of Swati. And this always happens in the nakshatra of Swati, just so you know. And Rahu is there. Rahu rules Swati. And this is a very interesting story about why Sun is debilitated there. It's because Swati is ruled by Vayu, is the lord of this nakshatra, and Vayu is the wind. And so Vayu had a son named Hanuman, he's the monkey. He has the monkey god, and he's very strong, and he's extremely devoted. He appears in the Ramayana devoted to Rama, and Rama is the sun. And so we see there's a link here between Hanuman and the sun. But when Hanuman was very young, his mother returned to heaven, and he was left on his own. So he said, what should I eat? And she said, don't worry, you'll eat fruits as ripe as the sun. And he mistook that when he saw the sun in the sky, that he thought that he could eat the sun. And so he took off. I mean, he's amazing. He has immense strength, and because he's the wind. And we've seen the power of the wind in our world recently, the immense strength and power. So he leapt up and he attempted to eat the sun. And so this means that while, Hanuman becomes a great supporter of Rama, an incarnation of the sun, initially he was attacked by that. So this tells us that during, this transit, he's kind of vulnerable because Hanuman is about to eat him. Now Hanuman gets distracted and jumps on Rahu's head, who is also approaching the sun. So there's like these enemies, and distracts Rahu, so ends up kind of saving the sun. So it's a very interesting story there. And some of those images may come up to you. You may feel attacked. You may see what you think is an attack, and actually it seems to be helping you out. So those are some kind of interesting ways to interact with the energy. Now, secondly, we have the Lagna Lord Venus is an enemy to the sun. And Venus, of course, will be debilitated in Virgo from October 22nd until November 16th. So after that time, there'll be a shift. And during this time, the Venus will be transiting, of course, 12th from the sun. And any planet, when the Lord of their sign is 12th from it, it can bring loss, debts, sorrow, isolation, loneliness, those kind of things. So this would be something to watch out. And the reason I like to break these things out is because our mind, our body will follow these planetary influences. But part of Jyotish is that we say to ourselves, we can recognize that feeling and we can say, now, okay, this is a planetary influence. So I don't have to buy into it 100%. It's good to watch and see, and I'm not saying you should ignore, what you're feeling, but know that it's an influence that will be transitory. And so if after November 16th you're still feeling all of this, which, then you can look at it. But somehow it helps to know this is a planetary influence, which may just be augmenting these feelings that you're already having. So, and then we talked about Sun aspected by two malefics. And it should be noted that Mars will station direct on the 13th of November, just right at the end of this transit. So during this time, the impact on our mental sphere is most likely to be that you may have questions or issues with feelings of self-confidence, courage, charisma, and patience. Those are the things that may be more challenging for you, and these are the issues that may come up. When we're feeling this way, it often generates actions in us where we can be perceived as being, by others may think that we're being petty, aggressive, and bullying rather than like leading in an area. Now remember, they're under this same influence. So both sides of this conversation are feeling a little low confidence, and they may be concerned and not have patience. So this is, it takes, as my mother used to say, it takes two to tango. So we have to remember that people we're dealing with are facing these same kind of challenges. They can create difficulty acting on your higher instincts. So this is where, if we don't feel quite as confident, then things that normally wouldn't get to us may get to us. And it can also give us an egotistical kind of fixed mindset, which resists change. Remember, the sun is a very fixed energy. It's very constant. And usually it's vibrating at a much higher level. But for this month, it can lead us kind of into more fixed states of just being irritable and resistant to change. It can also give us low energy, and we do need to be aware of any health issues if they start to arise, just because this can be a time where we're presented with it. The reason planets debilitate in the cycle is basically because we have our birth chart, so that's kind of like your starting point. And as they go through the transits, within that starting point, it offers you the benefits when they're exalted. You get more of the higher side, reinforce those better skills, the better attributes of it. And then when it comes to this debilitated place, what the planet is offering us is a chance to look at the weaknesses we still have concerning that planet, and gives us a chance to understand them and to know areas that we have to work on. So this could be a time, anytime a planet is debilitated by transit, think of it as almost like giving you like a checklist or ideas about some of the weaknesses in that planetary energy, and then use the rest of the annual transit to help to improve and build them. It's a really positive way to try to take a self-inventory. And you must be non-judgmental about it, because the planet is just going to keep rotating, and they're going to help, keep building and strengthening our understanding of the planetary energy. So let's look real quickly at the Nakshatras. These are the lunar signs, and of course that relates to our mind, our emotions, memories, feelings, interactions with others, things like that. So we begin the month, October 10th through the 23rd. The sun will be in Chitra, which is ruled by Mars, and Mars and the sun are friends, so this can be very good. However, it's all tamasic energy, which means it's very practical, it's very down to earth, it can be a little heavy, it can get overly involved in details. I mean, there's some of that energy there, but this is the only nakshatra that has that triple tamasic energy. So it really can give you areas, and especially since Mars is retrograde during this time, this could be where anger really can start to flare up. Now, the whole lesson of Chitra is that it's about our ability to accumulate merit in life. So because this is in the sign of Libra here, this could be where I always think of what I call retail therapy. So like, I deserve ice cream for dinner. I deserve I don't know, a new car, or I deserve a vacation, things like that may come up in this area. But it can also be, because it's tamasic, that's going to be the natural inclination. But you can work with the awareness of Jyotish and start to say, you know what? I deserve to go to bed early tonight and get really good sleep so I feel better tomorrow. Like, I deserve to go meditate for 15, 20 minutes and just help clear my mind. So that's how I use this energy. Then on October 23rd through November 5th, it's going to be here in Swati. And we just talked about Swati and Vayu and the sun feeling under attack from Hanuman. So this is where it's this whole period. And of course, you'll notice that the US election happens on November 3rd. So this is where the sun is always pretty much during our election time. It's usually in this nakshatra. So there's the power here, the Shakti, is to scatter like the wind. And so you may be thinking like, I just want to, tear it all down and start over. And so that could be from any area of your life, wherever the sun sits natally in your chart, that could be where you're thinking about making just drastic change. Also, Saraswati is connected to this sign. And so it's interesting to look at, it could awaken areas of new study. And that's something I always try to look for, because you may get like whatever, like in your Jyotish work, you may suddenly get an inspiration that you want to dive into Vargas or some specific aspect of Jyotish. And so that could be a great way to harness this energy for positive outcomes. And then from November 5th until November 19th, the sun will be in Vishaka, which is ruled by Jupiter, also a friend. And here that we have all the triplicity of the gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, which means that many, many things are possible. So it can be, if you have a focus here that's come up and you're pursuing it, it can give you great power. It can also bring some confusion, and you may overextend yourself and go in multiple directions when you have this signature. The Shakti of Vishaka is the power to achieve many and various fruits in life. And a decision must be made, they always say. And that's because you have three gunas. So you have to decide what you're going to go for and then set a plan. And I should also point out that you achieve these many and various fruits after concerted action. The narrative of this nakshatra, the story behind it, is about Indra and how he went through many, many battles and defeated many people before he became the king of the gods. And then he got the big payoff. The one thing you have to watch with this is that you can become a little too impressed with yourself and your strength through victory successes. And then, of course, you're setting yourself up for a little fall, so that you realize you're still here to do work. So we look just quickly at the nakshatras, and we can see that October 20th through 23rd is a good time where results may be easily achieved, and the work you put in may pay off in this period. From October 23rd through November 5th, this is a time of work where you're, this is where you have to really keep an eye on what's going on. This is this whole transit through Swati, which is ruled by Rahu, who is inimical to the sun. So this would be the time that, if you're feeling it, in addition to the general transit, you may check this and see, oh, he's not in a great pada or navamsha. So, I may be feeling uneasy and things may not be progressing. However, November 5th through the 9th is when he's exalted in his results. So this is the time that he's most likely to get payoffs, and rewards are going to come from this time. So let's check in on the larger transits that are happening here. We've already discussed some of them, but I just wanted to go into more detail here. You can see we have the full moon right before he enters this sign, the new moon here at 29 Virgo. Here we have the full moon is going to be at 14 degrees of Aries in Parani. And then the new moon again will be at 29 Libra. So we see that these are right at the ends of the signs. And that will also be in Vishaka. and that comes in on the 14th. The big news here is that Mercury is retrograde, but that ends on the 3rd of November, which is, of course, the exact day of the election. So that's one of the things that we'll all be waiting for, is to see, you know, how that plays out. And then we have Mars will station here from about the 10th of November through the 15th, maybe into the 16th, and he'll in Pisces, and he'll be turning direct again. And then we'll talk in a minute about his specific transit. So I've listed out all the key dates that this is a great thing to be watching. The long-term patterns we kind of start the month with is that Mars is in the Aries Pisces retrograde cycle until the 21st of February. So it's quite a long stay in Aries. He comes out to do his retrograde bit from really 3 months, couple months, then he'll go back in. And so basically we start here on the 16th, as I've said, Sun and New Moon. And this, like I said before, this is an indicator of just emotional upset can be. Because whenever the sun changes sign, the Sankranti, it's good to really take that day and make it kind of low key, because the sun is shifting between two energies. Then we have October 22nd, Virgo becomes Venus becomes debilitated in Virgo. And then on the 27th, we have Sun on his exact degree of debilitation. And on the 31st, on Halloween here, Venus will enter Hasta, which is ruled by the moon. And they are not friends, so this is a little difficult. But that's also on the full moon. So this could be kind of an emotionally challenging time as well. On the 3rd, we talked about the Mercury station. Here we see the 11th. Whenever we have two things changing signs, it's just, to me, like, it's not a disaster day or anything, but just a day to just to be aware of. November 11th, you've got Venus and Mercury both changing signs. And then on the 14th as well, you have the new moon, and Venus is at their exact degree of debilitation. So these, the lunar cycles this year, this month, the new moons and full moons are, you know, like kind of coordinating other planetary activity, which could just add a little more complexity to them whenever you have a couple things happening. I always like to check in because this year the major signatures, so many planets are in dignity. And so right now we have Jupiter is in Sagittarius, but on November 19th, he will move back into Capricorn after his retrograde, and he will then enter the debilitated state. And we also have Capricorn. Saturn is in Capricorn and that turned direct recently. So Capricorn will be getting a lot of activity. So wherever that lies in the chart, it's good to keep an eye on, because that's where things are going to be progressing. This is, of course, the Mars retrograde curve. Really, he entered 21 degrees Pisces, where he stations first on July 25th. Then he went retrograde on September 9th. And then October 3rd, he moved back into Pisces, where he'll be until December 23rd. So this is, you know, interesting for all Aries rising, because the ascendant Lord is going to be in your 12th house. And while he'll station on the 13th, it won't be until after the 23rd that he's back in Aries. And then he'll be there through the beginning of January 2021. Oh, sorry, he'll reach the 4th degree in January, but he'll be in the sign of Aries until February 21st. So rather than just being there a couple months, he's there actually in there from August 16th to February 21st. So that's a long transit in Aries. And then we do have two Panchamaha Purusha yogas that are active. And so for up until November 19th, the Hamsa Yoga, which is a positive yoga and strengthening for wisdom, spirituality, things like that, is still active for the mutable signs. So this would be Sun or Lagna in Gemini, Virgo, Sag, or Pisces. But after the 19th, this will end for the year. The signature is completed. And then the Saturn has a Sasha Yoga because he's in his own sign. And this will go on up until 2023 for movable signs, and then we'll go to Sasha Yoga for the dual sign. So we'll go for another couple of years. So Saturn is very strong. This is where he comes into his own 2 signs. So it's great to be doing your Shani mantras and things like that. And it's, you know, in the next 5 years, you're going to be working, revising your understanding of Saturn and the role he's playing in your chart. So let's look at the sign by signs. So for Aries, Sun will be in the 7th house and can bring conflict and misunderstandings in relationships. You may find yourself dreaming of taking a trip to get away from it all. Aren't we all dreaming of that? But for Aries who like to keep moving and keep things going. So figure out, maybe you can just take a drive somewhere. You know, just change of scenery, something else to help kind of scratch that itch, they say, just to, you know, resolve that feeling. For Taurus, Sun will be in the 6th house, and you're likely to feel uncertain about your work situation. Taurus likes stability, they like certainty, they want to make sure things are lined up. And in this year, with all the transits and especially Sun moving debilitated, that will be a little it'll be awakened, that need for security and comfort. There will be a tendency to blame coworkers if you're feeling stressed. So remember to pause before you speak, as angry words can make the situation worse. Taurus is the natural house of speech, and so the Sun being there brings a certain power. Sun being in your 6th house can bring difficult and angry words. So just be aware of it. For Gemini, Sun will be in the 5th house and can bring some blocks to the creativity, not blocking so much maybe as just not a lot of creative energy. Like the Sun is this giant ball of energy that's always shining, and it still remains you know, shining, but in this one sign, this week of sign, the energy doesn't reach us so well. It's not getting the support of the background constellation. So you can feel changed by a romantic partner. Sorry, you can feel challenged by a romantic partner, and may also be tempted to look for support outside your long-term relationship. So just be aware of that, because it's in the 5th house, and you know, just be alert for this. It's more important to work out your issues with the partner than to avoid them by engaging with others. So Cancer, Sun will be in the 4th house and can add undue stress to educational and to household issues. Don't allow conspiracy theories to consume your energy. This is something that, you know, really we all have to be on the outlook for. But, you know, because it's in the 4th house, which is the seat of our subconscious, it's our internal kind of deep felt emotions. There's a risk of really getting some of these conspiracy theories that appear to be so prevalent right now. Like, this is an unusual occurrence. There's always conspiracy theories, but now more and more people seem to be buying into them. So this is something, because Sun is the light that, and it's not so strong now. So just all of us should be aware of it. For Cancers, just watch. And I mean, you may be able to laugh it off if you start to think about something and then you're really kind of buying into it. Just, you know, check yourself and see how it's going. Leo will have Sun in your 3rd house, and this can create unusual, atypical, as we say, self-doubt and lack of confidence and courage. So for Leos especially, if this is going on, just remember, this is the transit. It's all going to pass within, you know, 30 days. Consider your actions carefully, but remember that the self-doubt will pass at the end of the transit. Now, Virgo, Sun is in your 2nd house and can bring feelings of being undervalued and overworked in the work and family setting. So this is a tendency with Virgo. I mean, you just have to always make sure that you're balancing your workload. Because Virgos tend not to like a lot of focus on it. But this time it can really get to you, feeling undervalued and overworked in the work and family setting. Harsh words can cause deep wounds. So if you have an unpleasant interaction, remember that a sincere apology can help heal the risk. Again, this is because of the second house involvement, which is speech and Virgo, and Sun's not in a great place. Libra, Sun is in your first house and can bring health issues and lack of self-confidence. Follow all the safety guidance to keep yourself and others healthy and safe. Very important, not a time to mess around. Scorpio, Sun in the 12th house can bring risk-taking behavior. Bad habits with intoxicant sex and food can resurface, so be aware. Just keep a handle on that stuff. You know, there's a national trend that's not being reported a lot of increased depression, but also increased substance use. It is being reported how people are gaining more weight because they're not moving around as much. So just be aware of this. And, you know, once you bring it into the light, you're going to be able to handle it fine. Sagittarius, Sun in the 11th house can bring feelings that you are not getting adequate results for your efforts. Direct your focus inward towards self-improvement, and you may find unexpected treasures on the spiritual path. So take that moment, do your meditation, just get quiet and listen to what's going on in your heart. It'll give you great guidance. For Capricorns, Sun is in the 10th house and can bring resistance to following a positive daily routine. So avoid spending the whole time on the couch and watching Netflix. So this is a really good thing. You've got to balance relaxation with activity. And often television can be some relaxation, but you have to remember your mind is being stimulated the whole time you're watching television. So it doesn't give the mind time to be quiet, which is really the source of deep relaxation that allows you to recover and heal. Aquarius, Sun is in the 9th house, and it can reveal secrets about teachers, mentors, fathers. Remembering that we are all a work in progress can help to access compassion and understanding. And for Pisces, Sun is in the 8th house. It can bring depression and even a sense of grief and longing for the past. Be gentle with yourself and seek out support from positive friends and family members. I would say this to everyone. We're, you know, in this very strange time, and don't overlook the necessity to connect with other people in a safe and appropriate manner. Zoom can help. It can be really good. It's better than nothing. But, you know, if you can find people to meet in a park or do something else, especially in the US where we're now going into winter, this summer people could get out and do a lot more. Start thinking about places you could go that are, you know, during bad weather, you can still have some connection. Because if you don't think about it now, you're going to find yourself overwhelmed and you could make bad decisions that could lead to just more complications in your life. So that's what I've prepared for today. I'm so glad everyone popped in. We have some time for discussion. So if people want to send in a question, I would be happy to take them and see what you're saying. Let me pop out the question box and the chat box. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them up. I'll give you a minute. You know, I think it's, so this is an interesting time, and I hope everyone's taking care of themselves and their family members. It's really, you know, fascinating to see what's going on. You'll never forget 2020. That's what someone asked me. Okay, I see some things here. So let's see, Mary Jane, how about any key planets oh, let me put on my glasses. I always forget, and I'm trying to read something. I'm like, what is this? Okay. How about any key planets we have that might be retrograde? Well, I mean, if you have retrograde planets in your chart, then you are, first of all, you're familiar with that energy, which is retrograde. So it's part of it. And I think what that means in a lifetime lesson is that you're getting like, you're getting to work on those areas from like a different perspective. The key words I use to retrograde planets is that in the chart, they are rebalancing the energy, you're learning to rebalance the energy, and you're emphasizing it. So those would be key planets that might be retrograde. So then I have a question also. If someone is starting a Venus Mahadasha, and is a Libra rising during or just before this ingress, will it influence the bigger cycle? Well, yes, it would. So when you start a Mahadasha, you should draw up the chart for the day, for the moment that the day that the Mahadasha begins, because that forms like a little mini chart that will inform this. So if they're Libra rising, that would mean they'll have the sun in the first house during this Venus Mahadasha. Now, with that said, it's 20 years. So this does not mean that you have to live with a debilitated sun for 20 years. But I would say at the end of this 20-year Venus cycle, your skills in leadership, in, I mean, self-confidence, all of those qualities, you will have really had a chance to master, because they'll always kind of be there a little bit. But the advantage is when you're working over that length of time, you can really do great work and understand it. And this is the thing about Jyotish, is so many times we never stop to take inventory. Like, whoever thinks like, what was my self-confidence like 20 years ago? And maybe you do, but most people, we don't. We just keep kind of living day to day. So it would be something you can use the chart at the beginning of a Mahadasha cycle to understand what strengths you're going to be accessible to you, and then what challenges may be there during the entire period. So I don't want anyone to feel like it's super dire, but yeah, it does impact it. And that's a great way to get the insights into the quality of your experience of that Mahadasha cycle. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Let me just check. Nothing there. Well, great, everybody. So next month, we'll be talking about Sun through Scorpio, and that'll be on the second Sunday of the month. Does that hold for Bhuktis as well? Yes, you can look at the Bhukti. Now, I would only do Dasha Bhukti. I wouldn't go into Andradasha and all those things, because it'll just drive you insane. But especially if you're in a longer retrograde cycle, longer Mahadasha, then yeah, it's always good to look at the Bhukti, especially where that planet is. You may want to look at the whole chart, but especially if you're starting a Sun Bhukti, let's say Sun Bhukti on November 28th or October 28th, then yeah, you would look at it and say, okay, it's debilitated for this. So this is going to be showing the areas that I can build and improve. And that way, when challenges arise, you're going to click in naturally to like, oh, okay, this is an opportunity to improvement and to see if I can handle this a little differently and not just go on instinct, Yeah, so that would work for Bhuktis also. Are these webinars archived? For those of us who missed part of today's webinar, yes. And yes, you can. Please join us. If you go to YouTube and search the American College of Vedic Astrology, on the YouTube channel, all of the webinars that we've done are there. And I'll be posting this up today. I just, will load it up. And so that will be available today. And then usually I do send out for everyone on our constant contact on our email list, I'll send out a notice saying that today's webinar is up and available. And I'll also include the information about Dr. Suhas's Ayurvedic finding the 3 pillars of health in the Vedic chart. His talk, which is Jyotish and Ayurveda combined. I'll send out the link to that as well. So it's all in. Yeah, and you can, these are available for you to listen in whenever it's convenient. Okay, guys. Great. Thank you. Great. Oh, yeah, the remedies. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, mantra, I mean, mantra. And if you don't really do mantras, if you're not really comfortable with that, quiet. Like in today's world, turn off all noise and just sit in the quiet, or turn on your little meditation app on your phone, some gentle music that doesn't have content to it, you know? Just let your mind get quiet, go to quiet, and, you know, give yourself 10 minutes to do it, and then build that and build that, because that is when you'll feel your body restore. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Yes, I'm working my remedies. Trust me, I'm working them. That's why we do this. Okay, everybody, have a great day, and I will see you next month.